We need people who put work first. That was the subject line in my email. My names. Jeremy, I'm 39 years old, and I just buried my grandmother on a Tuesday morning in Des Moines. I got back to Kansas City that Wednesday night, planning to be at my desk. Thursday morning, like nothing happened. Instead, I found my badge deactivated and a termination notice waiting in my inbox. 7 years. 7 years. I'd worked for ClearPath Solutions, never missed a deadline, never called in sick unless I was actually dying. I was the guy they hailed when the servers crashed at midnight. The guy who trained every new hire in our compliance division. The guy who knew every line of code in our government contract systems. I'd asked Trent Mulligan, my supervisor, for 4 days off, told him my grandmother passed. She was 86, raised me after my parents died in a car wreck when I was 12, he said. Fine, but make it quick. We've got the Henderson audit coming up. I went to her funeral, helped my uncle sort through her things. Came back ready to work now. I sat in my truck in the ClearPath parking lot reading that email over and over. Your recent absence. 8. Disrupted project flow. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately. No phone call, no meeting, just a spreadsheet. With my final pay calculation attached, I looked up at the third-floor windows where I'd spent the last 7 years of my life, where I'd built something where I thought I mattered. The security guard was already walking toward my truck. I started at ClearPath straight out of community college. Nan Alvarez, the CEO, hired me herself back then, said she liked that I asked practical questions instead of trying to impress her with technical jargon. Was 22 and grateful for the chance. The company handled data compliance for government contractors, boring work, but steady, important when defense companies needed their systems audited. They called us when federal agencies worried about data breaches. They called us. Trent came aboard 3 years. Go middle management type who measured success in meetings, attended, and emails sent. He didn't understand the technical side, but knew how to make himself look. It's important, always taking credit for other people's work, always finding ways to remind everyone he was in charge. I should have seen the warning signs earlier, like when he started scheduling mandatory team meetings during lunch breaks, or when he began tracking bathroom times on a spreadsheet, or when he told Jessica from accounting that her sick days were excessive after she had pneumonia. But I kept my head down, did my work, figured if I stayed useful enough, if I made myself indispensable, I'd be fine. The truth was I made clear. I had a lot of money. Our 2 biggest clients, Meridian Defense Systems and Harrison Federal Consulting, specifically requested me as their liaison. They didn't trust our automated reports. They wanted human verification, someone who understood their particular needs. These weren't small accounts. Meridian alone was worth $8 million annually. Harrison brought in another $7 million together. They represented nearly 40% of our revenue. But Trent didn't see it that way. He saw me as someone who got too much attention from the clients, someone who made him look unnecessary. Remember the last conversation we had before? My grandmother died. He'd called me into his office about the Henderson audit timeline. I need you to understand something, Jeremy, he said, not looking up from his computer. Nobody here is irreplaceable, not even you. I nodded, said I understood. But sitting in that parking lot reading his termination email, I realized Trent had been planning this for months. My grandmother's death just gave him the excuse he needed. The security guard tapped on my window. Nice. Guy named Floyd who always asked about my weekend. Sorry, Jeremy, he said. When I rolled it down, got orders to escort you out. I handed him my badge. Not your fault. Floyd, I didn't go home right away. Drove around Kansas City for 2 hours, thinking ended. Up at the cemetery where my grandmother was buried, just for days earlier, sat on the hood of my truck looking at the fresh dirt on her grave. She would have been furious, not about the firing she'd lived through, the depression, new jobs came and went, but about the disrespect about a man who'd shake your hand on Monday and stab you in the back on Wednesday. You always were too trusting, Jeremy. I could hear her saying, sometimes good people get taken advantage of. My phone buzzed. A text from Danny, one of the junior analysts I'd been training. What the hell happened? Trent just sent an email saying, you're gone, no explanation. Then another one from Marcus in it. Heard you got fired? This place is insane then. Jessica from accounting there saying you abandoned your post. We all know that's... I turned my phone off. Didn't want to deal with explanations, but something was bothering me, something beyond the obvious injustice of it all during the Henderson audit last month. James Harrison from Harrison Federal had pulled me aside, asked if I was happy at Clear. Path said they'd been thinking about bringing their compliance work in-house and they'd need someone who really understood their systems. I'd thanked him but said I was loyal to Clear Path, that my job was secure now. I was wondering if Trent knew about that conversation, if he'd decided to get rid of me before I could jump ship. The more I thought about it, the more pieces started falling into place. Trent's sudden interest in my client relationships, his questions about what the Meridian and Harrison folks discussed with me during our calls, his insistence that all client communication go through him from now on. He wasn't just firing me, he was trying to take over my accounts. Problem was, Trent didn't understand how these relationships worked. Meridian's project manager, Colonel Rita Vasquez, was former military. She respected competence and hated corporate politics. Harrison's compliance director, Dr. Patricia Wong, was a perfectionist who'd spent 20 years at the FDA. She could spot a fraud from across the room. Neither of them was going to be impressed by Trent's PowerPoint presentations and buzzword vocabulary. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through. My contacts found the number for Steve Morrison, a lawyer I'd met at a compliance conference last year. He specialized in wrongful termination cases. Then I put the phone away without calling. I wasn't ready to fight. Yet wasn't ready to make this about lawsuits and legal fees, but I was ready to see what happened when ClearPath tried to manage $14 million worth of government contracts without the person who actually understood how they worked. Started my truck and drove home for the first time in 7 years. I had nowhere to go. Tomorrow morning I spent the first week cleaning my garage, organizing tools, throwing away old paint cans, basically doing anything that didn't involve thinking about ClearPath solutions. But by the following Monday, I knew I had to start looking for work. The problem was clear. Path had non-compete clauses in their employment contracts. I couldn't work for any company that competed with them. For 12 months in the compliance world, that basically meant I was locked out of my own industry. I called Steve Morrison, the lawyer, Jeremy Wright. We met at the Denver conference. His voice was friendly but professional. What can I do for you? I explained the situation, the funeral, the termination, the non-compete. They fired you for attending a family funeral. He sounded genuinely surprised. With written permission. I've got the email chain. Good, that's likely wrongful termination, but the non-compete is tricky, even if we can prove they fired you without, because enforcing the agreement might still be legal in Missouri. He agreed to review my employment contract, but warned me that litigation could take years. In the meantime, you still can't work in your field. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table staring at my bank account. I had maybe 3 months of expenses saved up after that. I'd need to start selling things. My phone rang. Unknown number. Jeremy, this is Colonel Vasquez from Meridian Defense. Her voice was clipped, military precise. I've been trying to reach you at ClearPath, but they keep transferring me to someone named Trent Mulligan. I felt my stomach drop. Yes, ma'am, I'm no longer with the company. I see. Well, that's unfortunate. We specifically requested you for our Q4 compliance review. This Mulligan fellow seems to think he can handle it, but frankly, he doesn't inspire confidence. Started our conversation by asking if we could reschedule because he had a dental appointment. I almost laughed, but kept it professional. I'm sure a ClearPath will assign someone qualified to your account perhaps, but I wanted you to know that Meridian values relationships built on competence and trust. If you land somewhere else, give me a call. She hung up before I could respond. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. Dr. Patricia Wong from Harrison Federal. Jeremy, I just heard about your departure from ClearPath. I hope everything is all right. Yes, ma'am, just a change in direction, I see. Well, I should mention that we received a rather peculiar call from a Mr. Mulligan. This morning, he wanted to schedule what he called a relationship reset meeting to discuss our contract terms. Frankly, we're confused. Our contract terms were negotiated, specifically around your oversight protocols. My chest tightened. I'm sure he'll get up to speed quickly, perhaps, but Jeremy, you should know that Harrison Federal has always viewed you as the primary value proposition in our ClearPath relationship. Without that personal assurance of quality, we may need to reconsider our arrangements. After she hung up, I sat back and realized what was happening. Trent had fired me, thinking he could simply slide into my role with these clients, but he didn't understand that Compliance work wasn't about company policies or org charts. It was about trust, about proving month after month that you understood. Stakes, these were defense contractors handling classified information, financial.